Operation Shika began in Kerala, India back in 2015. Over the next 2 years, the task force investigated and uncovered a huge ivory poaching criminal enterprise that eventually led to the arrests of 72 people across the country. These range from the elephant poachers themselves to corrupt government officials and ivory art dealers. The story has now been made into a popular TV series by Amazon. The gang operated for 10 years, killing many elephants during that time. Asian elephants are protected, yet they are still considered endangered. There's been a global ban on ivory sales since 1989. Despite this, their numbers have dwindled by 50% since the beginning of the 20th century. The regions of Maharashtra and Karnataka, just north of Kerala, are particularly vulnerable to poaching, with illegal wildlife trade centers in the city of Nagpur and eastern Madhya Pradesh. India, the world's largest democracy, has fairly average levels of criminality, sitting 61st out of 193 countries. But if we dig deep into the data, the country's criminality score is split into two subcategories: criminal actors and criminal markets. For criminal actors, India has low numbers, with a score of 4.8 out of 10, placing it at 116th globally. But when we look at criminal markets, the score is much higher, at 6.7 out of 10, which is 16th globally. The country scores highly in criminal markets like human trafficking, counterfeit goods, cyber-dependent crimes, and so on. But ivory poaching, or the illegal wildlife trade, falls under Fauna Crimes. There, India scores 7 out of 10, placing the country 25th globally. On the other hand, India also has the highest levels of resilience to organized crime in southern Asia, with a score of 5.42 out of 10. And that's actually what we're going to be discussing today, specifically AI-driven technology that has been developed to help combat ivory poaching in India. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined by award-winning environmental journalist Sharada Balasubramanian. Sharada recently wrote the article, Hawk-Eyed, India is fighting its ivory poachers with a powerful tech weapon for the GI-TOC project. Sharada, welcome to the Index. Could you briefly explain to us how important elephants are to Indian culture?
I think as the whole world knows that we worship elephants through a god called Lord Ganesha, who we believe is a remover of obstacles. So I think that's the place that we hold for elephants. So, it's like it has a very high religious significance, and it is a part of a history also, right? Like we see elephants in temples used by the kings in those times. So elephants were a very significant part of India's journey, I think, and heritage, and even today it continues to be like that.
Poaching is an issue wherever we find elephants all over the world, right? But specifically in your country, can you tell us what kind of impact does poaching have had on the numbers of elephants?
Actually, for this report, I spoke to Dr. Surendra Verma, who is an Asian elephant expert. And what he told me was really shocking. Like when we talk about, I mean, even when I'm traveling, I see elephants, like when I'm going to forest. But that's not really an indicator of good population. The indicator of good population is a healthy male to female ratio. For instance, he gave an example of if there are three male tuskers in a forest, one is electrocuted because elephants are attacked by a lot of farmers when they raid the crops, right? One of them is eliminated and one of them is poached. That leaves us with just one male. If there are three males, one male. And then even the reproduction cycle, if you look at the gestation period of an elephant, so it's almost 22 months. So it's very difficult. So the genetic pool itself, that needs to be available for the population to regenerate. With ivory poaching, what's happening is the selective targeted attack on tuskers. And I think that's where the genetic pool is really getting disturbed. And that will lead to a very drastic fall in the population of elephants in future. And I think that's why it is endangered. And that's the main concern, actually.
So who's behind this criminal market? Who's poaching these elephants?
So, one thing is, of course, there is a lot of demand for ivory products and artifacts and things like that outside India. I think there was this very interesting news report that came called Signed and Sealed that revealed a lot of information about how ivory was used. It also talked about how Asian tusks were preferred over African tusks because these are more soft. And so when you shape the ivory, you can make very beautiful designs. So that's why Asian ivory was more preferred and more demanded in the international markets. But also locally, when I interrogated and interviewed a lot of forest department officials at a very local regional level, they said that there were a lot of high profile VIPs who were also involved, who could not be named, but they were also involved in this kind of poaching cases.
So you recently wrote about this new system called Hawk, which I understand is a wildlife crime intelligence gathering platform. Can you tell us more about this platform? What is it? Where is it being used? How does it work?
So basically, in 2015, what happened was the Operation Shikhar was led by WTI and the Kerala Forest Department, and they brought down this businessman in Delhi who was making ivory products out of his house, like very, in a very stealthy manner. So after he was caught, that's when they realized that the gravity of the situation was really like very serious. So they decided if we have to do something because this cannot go on like this. It's been happening for the last 2 decades. So what is it that can be done to one prevent the crime and to make the systems more efficient so that we close all the loopholes for such crimes? So that's where Jose Lewis from WTI and Manu Satyan, who was the Kerala Forest Department head of Periyar Tiger Reserve, where this hawk was first implemented. I think both of them got together. They went to this World Rangers Congress where they met a lot of military analysts and people who were in the intelligence from the US and people who worked in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan on military. So they said that how you typically nab a terrorist. So it's like how do you actually look at it in a in a digitized system? How do we track the phone, or how does the operation work? So the same principles are applied to look at wildlife trafficking and poaching and how that happens. So that system was designed in India with the help of Leopard Tech Labs, which is a small IT company. So I think it's a whole team of people, and I think the Kerala Forest Department. Kerala is a state which is always known for its very proactive steps. It with respect to development in any aspect of development in India. So they decided that we should go digital. Even if the crime happens in the forest, poaching case is detected, everything is written manually and all that. So it takes 2 days to write, and then there is so much of paper that gets piled up. And the best part was the top person in the forest department gave an approval after like 3 months of testing and finding out like and and it was rolled out, and I think in 2020 it was they declared that this is mandatory now to use only the digital system, and that's where it started. And I think initially, of course, whenever a new technology comes, there is always a hesitancy to adapt to it. But I think they really trained a lot of people, the department officials, and made it in the local language because India we speak so many languages. So it was made available in the local language, and I think that's where it all started. And it's a fully working system now in Kerala, and they have completely removed the manual way of clocking crimes.
Yeah, so you've, explained quite a lot of the benefits of, moving from a purely manual to a digital system. Can you talk about perhaps how important it is to embrace technology whenever possible when it comes to combating wildlife crimes?
I think technology is very, very important. And the reason is also because the people who are poaching, right, they are also turning to technology. So if they are pacing up to do crimes through technology, I think the law officials should move one step further and see what they can do to catch up with the poachers, right? Because they are getting advanced. You will see that there are local websites like OLX and things like that where wildlife products are actually sold online. So if we need to catch up pace with them, we have to go digital. We can't be sitting behind a manual paper and trying to nab those criminals. And now, because of WhatsApp and all these things that are happening, you can even use this to actually trace down the information. So in digital world, it's like there is no escape. I think Jose Lewis was mentioning about a case in Malaysia where they nabbed a wildlife criminal just through the conversations that happened on WhatsApp. Like, where was he? Whom was he talking to? So you can trace the entire chain of events through just a digital technology. So I think that's where it's very, very important for everyone, I think, in every sphere to move digital.
So Sharada, last question. Could hawk perhaps be, expanded to other parts of the world that might be facing the similar issues around ivory poaching or even perhaps other wildlife crimes?
Yes, absolutely. I think it can be really expanded to other countries where poaching is rampant, because this is a model that can be customized to any country or any state. Because as you know, India itself, like for each state, it is getting customized because each state speaks different languages and each state has a different set of forms for documenting wildlife crimes. So the software is prepared accordingly. So I think any country which is facing this kind of problem can use it. Right now it's a portal, but I think they are also bringing it as an app. So it can be used very easily by people who are going inside the forest, who are on a patrolling thing. So when they see the crime, they can just put the information, and I think it's a very good replicable model, global replicable model. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Index, and special thank you to Sharada for being part of the discussion. Head over to the Global Initiative's website to read Sharada's article, Hawk-Eyed, India is Fighting its Ivory Poachers with a Powerful Tech Weapon. And you can learn more about criminality and resilience in India by visiting the website of the Global Organized Crime Index, ocindex.net.